I never know how long it is before the stream actually starts. Anyway, so I'm just going to wave. Oh, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Fed the dogs, haven't we? Doggy's been fed. Who's making that noise? I think it's Ellie. It's been silly. Are you right, Spock? He's shaking. I think he's cold. Anyway, we are going to. Will we? Can you get off, Pops? Thanks, big girl. We are going to sort out the paperwork from last night for the Business Association Committee thing. Ellie! So I need to type up all of this with what I can remember. And at the same time, this is happening live over on their YouTube channel. So chat is live. If you've got anything to say about any of it, that's the place to write it in. And I'll try and keep up with it. Is it actually playing at the moment? Whoops. Yeah, they are running 24. Oh, I don't know. It's still running live. So let's get to.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's planning regulatory committee meeting. I'm very pleased to see you all today, and especially Richard Greaves, the head of planning here, who hasn't been to one of these meetings before. So
we're running about 45 times.
If I may quickly go over some general housekeeping before we start the meeting. This meeting is being held in person at County Hall. It is also being streamed live on the County Council's YouTube channel.
That level is okay.
The recording is available.
Is that level okay?
The fire alarm test is not expected.
Right.
Alarm sounds.
Let's have a look at.
In the event of an emergency, please make your way to the nearest exit and meet at the muster point located at the
files.
Microphones. When you're using your microphone, please make sure it's switched on and speak towards it. This will tell the cameras to focus on you and ensure you can be heard on the live stream. When you're finished speaking, please push the button to turn off your microphone, as this will allow the system to pick up the next speaker. So next is apologies and substitutions. Holly?
We have received apologies today from Councillor Stephen Askew and Councillor John Ward is substituting, from Councillor Graham Carpenter, Councillor Rob Colwell with Councillor Brian Watkins substituting, from Councillor Paul Neal and Councillor Alexandra Kemp.
Yes, thank you, Holly. Yes. So we'll next turn to item 2, minutes. The minutes of the meeting have been circulated to, just pointing out to you that on the Appendix B, item 6, it does talk about the conditions that were debated during the last meeting, and it's just here that we've said that they will be published, and they are indeed so here. Any points of accuracy anybody wants to raise? You all agree that they're a true, accurate representation of the meeting? Thank you. I'll just sign the minutes off. Thank you. Declaration of interest. Any declarations of interest? There's no urgent business, so we go into the first substantial item.
Chair.
Oh, beg your pardon. I'm sorry, Mike. Sorry,
it's not a declaration of interest, but I'm sort of double booked this morning, so I may have to leave planning a little bit earlier than I might miss the second item sort of thing.
I suspect that this will not go on for a long time.
Yeah, I was hoping.
But if you do, Mike, then thank you very much. And we'll
no worries. I always enjoy planning, by the way.
Oh, absolutely, yes. So we go into the first substantial item, is item number 5, appeal decision related to retention of a replacement rail and siding at at Brandon Rail Sidings, Munford Road, Wheaton, Suffolk. Andrew is going to introduce this report to you.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to advise the committee of the recent planning appeal decision in relation to the appeal by Network Rail against the Council's decision to refuse plan and permission reference discharge 2024-0015, insofar as it relates to discharge of condition number 2 relating to a lorry management plan of plan and permission reference FUL 2022-0051. As some members will recall, planning application reference FUL 2022-0051 for retention of a replacement second rail siding at Brandon Rail Sidings, Wheating, was referred to the meeting of the Planning Regulatory Committee held on the 23rd of April last year for determination. As reported, the siding site was being operated as an aggregate storage and distribution centre with the importation of aggregates by rail and export by road. Whilst the planning officer's report did not include a recommendation for imposition of a planning condition in relation to a lorry management plan, following questions about the officer report presentation, including the impact of lorries on local roads and
Big
further
sigh.
questions about points raised from speakers, the committee proposed and agreed that an HGV haulage route traffic management plan was put in place through suitable conditions to direct traffic along the A134. Movement of traffic via the A134 would avoid movement through Brandon Town Centre, which is located to the south of the site and accessible via the A1065. The final condition of the committee...
Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out if I can bring that map up any bigger while they're talking.
was to authorise
And I
the planning
can't.
permission subject to conditions,
Sorry about that.
including the condition requiring the operator
Sorry
to
about
develop
that.
an HGV route management plan. And planning permission was issued in April last year, subject to a number of conditions, including condition number 2, which relates to a lorry management plan. In May last year, the applicant submitted an application for discharge of condition
My tea's hot.
for the lorry management plan. The application was
Doing it on my own today.
a lorry management plan which outlines the proposed routing arrangements for HGVs accessing and exiting the site, including accompanying signage to be displayed.
Wow.
The proposed wording of the accompanying sign requires that all HGV drivers, if possible, please avoid Brandon Town Centre. The applicant considered that there would be instances when it would be reasonable for HGVs associated with the development to not travel via the A134, but instead to route south along the A1065 through Brandon, for example, to service customers to the south of Brandon, including RAF Lakenheath and RAF Bildenhall. In September last year, the County Planning Authority issued its decision letter in relation to the discharge application. The applicant was advised that it is considered that the proposed wording of the sign is not sufficiently precise and would result in the lorry management plan being unenforceable. The condition relating to the lorry management plan was therefore not discharged. In February this year, the applicant lodged an appeal against the Council's refusal to discharge the proposed lorry management plan. On 20th of August, the planning inspector determined that the appeal be allowed and details submitted pursuant to condition number 2.
Okay, just back up. So my understanding is this chap wants to redesign his entrance and put up a new sign.
In accordance with application reference discharge 2024-0015. In considering the appeal, the inspector considered that the main issue is whether the details submitted are sufficient to discharge the condition, having regard to the protection of local residents' living conditions. The inspector agreed with the council that the wording of the proposed signage is somewhat ambiguous and would not explicitly prohibit HGVs from being driven through Brandon Town Centre. The inspector commented that, notwithstanding the material throughput and hence the number of HGVs associated with the original position is the same as the site's capacity when only one siding was in place. The additional siding was only installed to improve the operation of the site and increase efficiency and not increase capacity. The inspector considered that permission reference FUL 2022-0051 has secured limitations to the operations of the site through the imposition of further conditions. The inspector considered that these conditions can be monitored and enforced, unlike the unrestricted usage associated with
Not getting any work done.
The inspector considered that as such, despite the ambiguity of the lorry routing signage, the effect of the site's operation on local residents' living conditions would be no worse than previously when only one system was in operation.
Can you not get on the sofa?
In allowing the appeal, the inspector concluded that the details submitted are sufficient to discharge condition 2 in regard to the protection of local residents' living conditions. So I'm just going to go back to...
Got him.
By way of
Dog.
update, from review of agendas of recent meetings of Brandon Town Council, it's noted that the Town Council has given consideration as to whether to apply for a traffic regulation order, TRO, to ban HGV traffic from parts of Brandon. And as regards the recommendation is that the contents of this report are noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. You've heard the
And as regards the recommendation is that the
Sorry, I've got to listen to it again.
report are noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. You've heard the
In regard to the protection of local residents' living conditions.
Sorry, I've just got to listen to that again.
By way of update, from review of agendas of recent meetings of Brandon Town Council, it is noted that the Town Council has given consideration as to whether to apply for a traffic regulation order, TRO, to ban HGV traffic from parts of Brandon. And as regards to the recommendation is that the contents of this report are noted.
To ban certain
Andrew.
vehicles in
you've
the
heard
town.
update report, if you like. Does anybody, Brian?
Yeah, Chairman, obviously I remember the case in question.
I
think
he was on
still
yesterday.
I was chairing the committee. In fact, I
Ryan.
think the first time we were due to meet to
I
consider
can't
this,
see his name because I've got this
application, the
this
meeting
box
wasn't
here.
called, so the actual meeting when it was determined was
This
the
box here
following
has
meeting.
absolutely nothing to do with me.
Now, I seem to recall that the condition, and this is only from memory,
Which means I can't see his name.
the condition, there was obviously a committee vote on whether or not to
Terrible
accept
lighting
the
today.
condition. And I thought
Terrible.
it was to be agreed by the chair and vice chair, you know, in terms of operation. And I can't ever recall it coming back.
Recommendation.
Me
The
as chair, but then
contents
that's
of this
probably the
report
time
are
after
noted. Is
that
that
when
it?
chairmanship changed. And I just wanted to check the chronology of what had happened and when, because, you know, hearing the outcome of that and looking at what the wording was for the sign, I'm hardly surprised that we didn't succeed when challenged at appeal, because, you know, we're always told when we're dealing with planning conditions, you know, that they have to be, you know, defined so as to be relevant and enforceable, and, you know, avoid if possible. I'm going that way, you know. There's absolutely no chance of that having any strength to it. And I just wondered how we got to where we was. And I might be totally remiss. It could have well have been somebody emailed me and says, is this wording okay? And I emailed back and said, yeah, it was. But I just cannot recall that happening.
Andrew, do you have any clarity there for us?
In terms of the wording of the actual condition, I mean, pursuant to the recommendation, as I recall, I mean, I have checked our records. The wording of the condition that was imposed in relation to the lorry management plan, that was agreed by both yourself as chairman and I believe Councillor Carpenter as vice chairman. But as regards the actual application for the discharge, no, you weren't consulted. I mean, we consulted the Highway Authority, and we also got representation from the County Council for Brandon.
What does that say on his plate right there?
Okay. John.
Senior Planning
Yes,
Officer.
I'll just ask a question as a new person. Why is this being determined here when Brandon is in Suffolk?
Over to you, Andrew, again.
Are they not letting you on the
Postcode.
sofa now?
It's a good question. I mean, it's referred to as Brandon Rail Sidings, but actually sits within Wheating with Brumhill Parish, which is on the Norfolk side of the boundary. But yes, it is very close to Suffolk.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, John. David.
Just to clarify, I go through there all the time. The county sign is literally, I think, right next to, opposite side of the road to the entrance to this yard. I would actually just be interested, a slightly obscure question, but is the station building itself on the Suffolk side? even though it's on the same site?
I believe the actual station building itself is also in Norfolk as well.
It is?
Rather than Suffolk,
Right.
yes.
So that
yeah.
site is effectively in Norfolk?
Yes, yeah. It's because of the way the county boundary, there's sort of a protrusion by Suffolk towards Norfolk, but
The county side, which I appreciate is not necessarily the border, sits literally just one side of the railway line.
Yes, yeah. I think you cross over the railway line towards Brandon and you're then technically in Suffolk.
Yeah. No, sorry, forgive me if you will, Chairman. I had a separate question regarding Brandon Station. Is it possible, Andrew, we could speak about that afterwards, which is inside the North?
Guys,
Okay. Are there any more questions on this item? I think it's just to do with deliverability of conditions and things like that, that where there was some variance at. So we've been asked to note the contents of the report, which I can say are duly noted. Thank you very much. So going on to item
Duly noted.
on to item 6, which is Land off Holt Road, Sheringham, to consideration of the judicial review decision of Hilltop Experiences Limited versus Norfolk County Councils. Ralph, I believe you're talking to this morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm standing in for Michael Jaya, who is the case officer. But I also actually presented this item on the day of the committee last time. But yeah, so this is the second item updating members on a planning decision made in committee, and that was in May last year. Members who are on the committee will recall that they resolved to grant planning permission for the development of a replacement recycling centre on land off Holt Road, Sheringham, which included the creation of a new access onto the A148 Holt Road, and that was in accordance with our recommendation in the officer's report. Shortly after the permission was issued to the applicant, who was the County Council's Waste Disposal Authority, officers were made aware that an application had been made by a third party to judicially review and ultimately quash the planning consent that had been issued. Just before I take you briefly through the grounds of the judicial review, I just want to remind you of the site and its environs, as this sets the context of a number of the grounds of challenge that were made. So the proposed site, as outlined in red, is immediately to the northeast of the current site, which is outlined in blue, on the northern side of the old Holt Road, which goes along here, on a greenfield site which is currently scrub and grassland. Both the current and proposed site are within the Norfolk Coast National Landscape designation, which was previously known as the Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty. The basis for the current recycling being located within the National Landscape was because of the proximity to the historic landfill site, which is some 250 metres here to the north of where the Hilltop Outdoor Centre is located. And the key here is it's the owners of the outdoor centre, Martin Reed, who sought to challenge the planning permission. And just for context, this delineates the boundary of the national landscape. So this is all what was previously the AONB. The proposal for the recycling centre was a typical layout comprising a one-way system for the public to access the receptacles they require to dispose of their waste, and a single-storey reuse shop located in the northwest corner of the site. And this is the site looking northwards across the site. This showed the...
oh my God, more countryside.
This sort of hedgeline and bund is the outdoor centre where the football pitch is, which is the boundary of who the claimant was in this judicial review. Initially, the review was lodged with 6 grounds, but by the time of the hearing at the Royal Courts of Justice in London, which we attended in February and March this year, ground 4 had been withdrawn by the claimant. So just to briefly take you through, ground 1 was that the County Planning Authority had failed to consider alternatives to the proposed site, including the site known as Stonehill Way, which was in Cromer. This was on the basis that the application site is in the national landscape. However, the Stonehill Way site was also in the national landscape, as was debated in that committee meeting. However, the judgment was clear that our consideration of alternatives was legally adequate given the information provided by the applicant. Our report to members was found to be clear that the site selection assessment provided by the applicant was lacking, and that the officer could not be certain alternatives did not exist outside the national landscape.
So
the court considered our approach taken to be rational and dismissed this ground. And this ground in particular seemed to gain the most discussion by the judge, and the issue of the degree that alternatives should be assessed has been grappled with by practitioners for a long time, so it's quite a long-standing issue, that. However, the judgment was clear that applications fall on a spectrum, and an application such as this does not need the same level of investigation into alternatives as, for example, a nuclear power station would. The claimant's second ground was that we had heard
What are we talking about here?
that the proposal was not major development for the purposes of paragraph 183 of the NPPF, which is now 190, and that we relied on irrelevant considerations. This is important as there is a higher test for major developments located in the national landscape. However, the judgment was clear that our decision was not irrational, and that on reading of the officer's report as a whole, it demonstrated we considered relevant reasons such as setting, size, and the low throughput of the proposed recycling centre. Their third ground, which related to the second, was that we had failed to, in our report, to advise members whether there were exceptional circumstances for locating the facility in the national landscape, and did not properly assess how the need for the replacement site might be met in another way.
So, if there's all this
The claimant
failing,
believed
can you
the
just
test was
do
necessary,
it again?
as they believed the site was major development in the national landscape.
Put the corrections
Obviously,
in.
disputed that.
Retrospectively.
However, the judgment was clear that no assessment was required as to whether there were exceptional circumstances, because we lawfully concluded that the proposed development was not major development. As set out on the slide, ground 4...
It sounds like it's a historical site that you want to build over.
To determine the
I
application
can't...
in accordance with the development plan unless materials indicated otherwise, so we didn't need to fight that one on the day in court. Ground 5 related to our duties under the Equality Act 2010. That's also known as the Public Sector Equality Duty. The essence was that our report did not have due regard to the particular makeup of children using the adjacent outdoor education,
Wolf
the one
Cox.
owned by Mr. Reid, and their particular
I cannot
sensitivities.
read what is under your name.
And had an equalities impact assessment been done, members'
I can't see it in the
However,
reflection.
the judge's decision was that the level of consideration to meet the duty of section 149 of the Act in this particular case is relatively low. This is due to the low degree of likely impact on children with protected characteristics, and the information that was given to us during determination of the application regarding the vulnerable children themselves. And the judgment put significant weight on the findings of the applicant's detailed noise assessment, which was clear that the noise impacts from the development would not be any greater than what is currently the case from the existing house and waste recycling centre across the road. And also that only part of the outdoor centre...
Is there any houses around it? What's the property situation around
playing
it?
field, which is already situated close to the main road and the existing recycling centre.
Playing field.
So the judgment on this ground found that the council had met its duty and obligations under section 149 of the Equalities Act. And finally, the claimant sought to challenge the screening opinion carried out pursuant to Regulation 6 of the Town and Country Planning Environmental Impact Assessment Regulations 2017, and they thought we were wrong in law because it had failed to consider certain types of waste and the impact on human health, and there was reference made there to hazardous waste. However, again, the judgment is clear that this is a matter of planning judgment itself, and that we officers came to a wholly lawful conclusion that there was no likely significant effect from the proposed development that would require further investigation through an environmental statement. As stated in the report, the outcome of the judicial review, which was handed down in June, was that all 5 remaining grounds be dismissed by the court, with an order of the award of capped costs to be paid to us by the claimant. We are aware, however, that the claimant has since lodged an application to appeal the judge's decision, and although we don't know the outcome of whether that's going to be given leave to be heard, we will obviously advise members of the outcome of the appeal if leave is given for it to be heard. But in that event, it's worth noting we would only be an interested party, and it would be for the court and the judge to defend their decision on this. So we'd just be an interested party at that stage. We wouldn't need to defend anything further. So thank you. I'm happy to take any questions on the judicial review or next steps.
Thank you, Ralph. Yes, thank you for the additional update that was applicable. Any questions, members? No. There you go, Ralph. Thank you very much for that. And the recommendation is the decision of the court is noted. So we're all okay with that?
But what does it mean?
So that's
So it's noted.
that's it. Thank you
So
very much for
what's
coming
happening?
today.
What does it mean?
I sense that the next meeting we're going to have will be a little bit more challenging in the sense of our decision making in that particular one, which is might be West Winch House in Access Road or something like that. But that's only a potential. Only potential. So the next meeting is on the Friday, the 21st of November at 10 a.m.
Don't start.
And can I just thank you?
Oh, you start.
It was an important process because some of us, as I say, to introduce.
Right, so you jumped off and lost your seat.
To you all and to see how things are operating, and there's been no change. So thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't expecting it to be over quite so quickly.
Well, I did nod to you on that. Anything else you think?
Can I just jump in? I think the recording's finished.
Wow. That's it. That is it. Stream has ended. Yeah. Stream has ended. I am currently over in this direction. I thought I'd get started on last night's paperwork so it's printed and done. And I was hoping to listen to a little bit more of what was happening, actually. I think what I will do is this one still on? No, that one's off. So I click that one off. Okay, so so we had the full council yesterday, didn't we? There was still, my God, that didn't finish till 3 hours and 57 minutes. Bloody hell. We've had another planning I can't even say that word. We've had 2 there. That one is for 2 hours and just under 2 hours. But this was the one 3 months ago. Let's just where's if I listen to this? So this one was on the 7th of May. And what I need to do is that. And we can see how long okay, so it took them 16 minutes.
If I can quickly go over some housekeeping before we start the meeting. The meeting is being held in person at Norfolk County Council in the County Hall and is being live streamed on the County Council's YouTube channel. For those that really can't sleep at night, you can watch it back. The recording will be available to view afterwards for any members of the public. We're not expecting a fire alarm.
There's some of us that are interested.
Evacuate the building, follow us basically, and we'll lead you to this.
Make sure you do your job.
Microphones, when using a microphone, please make sure it is switched on. A little button at the front will turn it on and speak towards it. This will then tell the cameras to focus on you and ensure you can be heard on the live stream. When you're finished speaking, please push the button to turn it off.
Do you think they take turns each chairing it?
So we'll move on to item 1.
This was not the same 3, was it, on the planning?
We do. Today we have apologies from Councillor Stephen Askew and Councillor Philip Dygan is substituting.
Planning committee.
From Councillor Rob Colwell and from Councillor Steve Riley and Councillor Brian Watkins is substituting.
Perfect.
It's a Doctor's case in the back
And
there.
we
Oh,
also
that
have
doctor's
in
case.
attendance Richard Greaves. I don't know if, Richard, if you'd like to just introduce yourself, that might be nice. He has some massive shoes to fill. As I said last time, I gave a big spiel about Nick standing down, and it was his last meeting, but clearly that was a fib. He's come back. It's like a bad penny. I can't get rid of him. But anyway, apparently this is his last meeting, and Richard will be taking over. So, Richard, if you'd like to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So, Richard Greaves, I'm the new Nick, so I will be, I am the new head of planning, but officially, I guess, from starting next week. So I look forward to working with the committee, the chairman and members in...
Other way, up. No, other way.
Thank you very much.
There you go, camera person.
Minutes on the 21st of March, page 6. Do members approve those? All happy? Those that are just opening them, starting to read them, too late?
Okay, let's
Thank
carry
you
on
very
with
much. Sign those later. Any declarations of interest?
doing this.
I'll take silence as a no. We have no urgent business. We'll go on to the applications themselves. We're going to start with the land to the northwest of Dobbs Beck, which is on page 43. Andrew Harris is going to present, and then we have Jim Papworth, who's going to speak, along with William McVelly, Hugh Evans, and Councillor Fran Wymark. So we'll start with your good self, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I just wanted to come and speak today.
No, not you, Fran. Well, we'll take the presentation first. I mean, we'll start with Andrew to give the presentation on the application.
I imagine this was discussed with Station Road, Paston Grange.
Yeah, apologies. I'm just trying to share my screen.
And it's not.
Nothing's come through.
Nothing's happened since. Surely that application would be discussed. That'd have been more than 3 months ago, though. I wonder when that was. Who knows when it was discussed in this room about the application for Paston Grange on Station Road in North Walsham? Now that I would want to see, and that should have been recorded. But how long ago? Who knows? Look at these flashy televisions I've got up there. Big strip light. I've never been in this council chamber, because this one is in just off by the football pitch, isn't it? Down there on the left, that building. Not quite sure what is going on at the moment. I don't think they quite know what's going on at the moment.
If he hadn't been here, this would have worked perfectly.
Nick. Okay, so they've got a hiccup going on at the moment. I'm just going to go over to my I really don't know what they're doing, do they?
Apologies. Yep, we're there now. Oh. Is that better? No. Yeah.
Still learning. We're all still learning. Sort your sound out.
Andrew, you just need to mute your computer.
Exactly. If you haven't got it going through a headset, mute your computer. And then the sound doesn't do that. How many men does it take to find a mute button on a computer?
You know how it goes. Yeah. My speakers are muted.
This lady, do you think she's the IT lady of the
Okay. Yeah, where they're
of the room?
place. Wrong one.
There she come again. No, she's not. She's gone. Look at the chap behind him. Oh my God, the pressure. Come on, Andrew. What are you looking for? Where? Yeah?
Yeah, thanks. Back again.
No.
Yeah, I do apologise. Yep. Okay. So this report deals with a planning application for construction of a wastewater treatment works on land to the northwest of Dobbs Beck within the parish of Beeston St Andrew. The applicant is Stretton Beeston Limited. The application site includes approximately 1.6 hectares of agricultural land comprising of the northeast corner of an arable field located some 1.3 kilometres southeast of Spixworth village and some 1.2 kilometres northwest of Rackheath village. Proposed vehicular access to the site is via an existing vehicular access from the B1150 North Walsham Road to the west. This slide shows the location of the proposed site in more detail.
Okay, I'm all ears now.
To Dobbs Beck to the east, into which treated effluent from the wastewater works would initially be directly discharged. This slide shows, the proposed works forms part of the strategy required to deal with implications associated with the requirement for nutrient neutrality for the Beeston Park development to the northeast of Norwich, which presently benefits from planning permission and is set to deliver a mixed-use development including up to 3,520 dwellings.
Oh.
The site of the proposed work is some 0.76 kilometres from the approved Beeston Park development and separated by the A1270 Broadland Northway corridor.
Ah. Another 3,000 plus a 3,000. What are you doing? You are selling Norfolk off. This is our farmlands.
A minimum level of flows and organic loads for the biological treatment process to become self-sustaining and fully effective. The works would accept and treat flow from occupation of 50 dwellings and onwards. In the interim, residential units would be served by temporary off-site handling. Objections and concerns are raised by Rackheath Community Council. Representation is made by 6 members of the public, 4 of whom make explicit objections to the proposals. Their concerns relate primarily to the impacts on amenity, flood risk, biodiversity impacts, and impacts
all
on
the same things.
And surface water quality.
Because that's what it brings, and nobody's doing a damn thing about it.
Being imposed on any granted planning permission. As can be seen from this slide, the proposed works is located some 0.44 kilometres northwest of the Rackheath wastewater treatment works. The discharge end of the outfall pipe for the proposed works is situated adjacent an area of ancient woodland separated by Dobbs Beck. The nearest existing residential properties are between 0.69 and 0.95 kilometres south of the site, separated by agricultural land and the Broadland Northway. The property some 1.15 kilometres northwest of the site, separated by agricultural land and woodland, and a property some 0.5 kilometres east of the site, again separated by agricultural land and woodland.
What about our farmers? What about our food source? What about... I mean, you hear this talk about meat being made in laboratories, and
the site of the proposed works is also situated
I think it's coming true.
2 kilometres from site GT16 North Rackheath, an area identified on the adopted Broadland growth Broadland Council Growth Triangle Area Action Plan Policies Map as a proposed allocation.
Do you know
Subject to an
Rackheath
outline application to Broadland Council for mixed-use residential-led development.
was a little
The
tiny
application
village.
pending Consideration.
I drive through it now and I don't even recognise it. There's hundreds of houses being built that is joining Rackheath up with the Heartsease. And now they're talking
The
about
works would comprise of a large fenced
Beeston
compound within which a number of structures
through
would be
to
sited, including a number of units and smaller
Rackheath.
structures. This is an elevation drawing of the
This
works.
is
The tallest
Norfolk.
parts are the 4 reactor tanks and raw sludge holding tank, which are some 6.3 metres high.
These farmlands, who are owning these
The
farmlands?
application includes
What,
a number of measures to mitigate the landscape and
or are
visual
they
impacts of
Crown?
the works,
Are
including
these
partial excavation
lands
and land
Crown?
raising to provide an overall lower,
That's
stricter
what I
level
want to know.
platform for the development, together
I
with
wonder.
construction of a bund, a maximum of 2.5 metres high,
They're selling it off.
7 perimeter of the works.
Selling off all land that they gave to us
The immediate perimeter of the works would be
about
planted
900 years
with a
ago.
hedgerow with tree planting along the boundaries of the site. The proposed bund would be sown with amenity grass seed, whilst the remainder of the site would be sown with a wildflower meadow mix.
Well, that makes up for it, doesn't it?
This slide shows the proposed works and the layout of the adjacent approved engineered wetland situated between the proposed works and Dobbs Beck. The approved wetland
We're not
also
seeing the
forms
pictures,
part
are
of the
we?
strategy required to deal with implications associated with the
We are
removal
not seeing the
of nutrient
booty
neutrality for the
of
Beeston
what they
Harbour
want
wetland,
to take
and
away.
includes nutrient removing cells, including reed beds and open water. This wetland will take sewage effluent discharge, including storm overflows, directly from Rackheath wastewater treatment works, water from Dobbs Beck, and treated effluent from the proposed wastewater treatment works.
They just have not maintained any of
The
these
wetland is
services
required to be constructed for
for
occupation
years,
of more
have
than
they?
1,308 homes up to 3,520 homes. Treated effluent would be discharged from the works initially directly into Dobbs Beck, and following construction of the wetland, the outfall would be relocated to the wetland.
Unbelievable.
The wetland would discharge
Absolutely
back into Dobbs
unbelievable.
Beck.
How many people actually know about this? Anyway, big girl.
The proposed works would be accessed
Look
by
at that,
existing
look.
surfaced access road and existing farm track.
The
Site is
wildlife, the
industrial on-site
open wildlife,
road
the
and
deer,
the Broadland Northway as well in that slide. The site of
the smaller
proposed
ones,
works
the
comprises of the northeast corner of the Malvern
monkjacks,
Field.
the birds, the voles, the...
As can be seen from this slide, the proposed site slopes gently down towards the north and east. The development also includes formalisation of an existing farm track to link the existing formal access road to the proposed works. As set out in the report, Rackheath Community Council raised concern in relation to impact of odour upon residential amenity.
Yeah.
Concern is also expressed by third parties in relation to potential adverse impact on amenity and health arising from
What
odour
right
issues.
have you
In
got
terms
to
of
do
odour,
this?
The
You
supporting
haven't.
odour assessment concludes that the concentration
That
of
land
odour
should
in
not
nearby
be for
sensitive
sale.
vicinity
That is
is projected
Norfolk
to be below the
land
relevant odour benchmark, and an assessment has shown the impact to be
that was
insignificant.
given by the Crown
Broadland
900 years
Council
ago.
Environmental Quality Team have not expressed any objection in principle.
And now
to
the Queen is dead.
assessment
He's
or the
sold off
application.
all her horses,
The
given
EQ
away her
team have
dogs,
advised that they have no
and
objection to the
now taken
proposal
away
in
our
terms of
land.
odour impact, subject to the inclusion of conditions in relation to boundary
And he's
overlay
meant to
and odour
be, I'm
management
talking
plan.
about Charles, by the way, he's meant
As
to
regards the
be
condition in relation to odour
the
management,
be-all and
this
end-all
report
of
required the applicant to submit a
loving
post-operations
trees,
odour assessment report within 3 months of the works being
loving
under
wildlife.
operation. This
Look
would
what he's
include the
doing.
results of an odour survey undertaken to demonstrate that the level of odour emitted from the works does not exceed the boundary odour level. To identify any mitigation measures that may be required to prevent odour nuisance to existing residents and
Well,
visitors.
I really need to
future
crack on.
incidents associated with the
I must
approved
crack
planning
on.
consents, including a timetable for
Can
implementation.
I lay this on you, Ellie?
And
Do
also
you mind?
details of a programme of ongoing monitoring to identify whether any further mitigation would be required in the future as to the levels of wastewater treated by the works increase and new housing development is brought forward. In addition to the planning conditions to protect the amenities of residential properties and the surrounding area, councils would have to investigate complaints about issues that could be a statutory nuisance, which is a nuisance covered by the Environmental Protection Act 1990. Issues that may be a statutory nuisance include noise and smells, including from sewage treatment works. For the issue to count as a statutory nuisance, it must do one of the following: unreasonably and substantially interfere with the use or enjoyment of a home or other premises, or injure health or be likely to injure health. If they agree that statutory nuisance is happening, has happened or will happen in the future, councils must serve an abatement notice.
Statutory nuisance.
As regards soil resources, should the land be grade 3A, the area of land lost would be relatively small and would not compromise the wider agricultural field.
Oh, fuck
The
off.
excavated soils would be
Bloody
reused
wood.
from the application site. The works is
Hi,
required to
Ali.
help
It's all right.
mitigate the
It's not
nuisance
you. It's this.
from the urban extension.
It is.
And the location of the works is driven by the need to discharge into a suitable watercourse. In terms of the planning balance, it is considered that these are material considerations that outweigh the small loss of land that may qualify as best and most versatile agricultural land. As set out in the report, the County Council has undertaken an appropriate assessment of the development, which concludes that following the implementation of the recommended mitigation, there will be no adverse effects on the integrity of the Broads Special Area of Conservation or Broadened Special Protection Area
Come
and
further
the
up.
Ramsar European sites.
Kim.
In accordance with the
Kim.
Habitats regulations, Natural England have been consulted on the appropriate assessment and advised that they concur with the assessment conclusions, providing that mitigation measures are appropriately secured in any planning permission given. This is the view from the southern boundary.
On that note, that's me, mother.
Towards the site of the proposed works.
Look how
This slide
beautiful
shows
that
ancient
is.
woodland on the opposite side of Dobbs Bank.
Just think of
Scheme is considered
all
to have the
the
potential to impact the nearby ancient woodland via the construction
all the
phase,
oxygen
including dust
being brought,
pollution,
and it
the
just and they're
operational
taking it
phase,
away,
including
and
changes to stream
want to
flow and water
replant.
quality. The ecological assessment assesses the potential impacts as being of low magnitude,
Anyway.
subject to mitigation or environmental permit requirements. The
I'll be
county
right back.
ecologist raises no objection, subject to condition in relation to a construction environmental management plan. In terms of the construction phase, it is therefore considered that subject to this condition, the proposal would not result in the loss or deterioration of ancient woodland. In terms of the operational phase, the Environment Agency are the regulatory body responsible for ensuring that discharges into ground and surface water do not harm water quality. The EA have confirmed that an application has been submitted for the environmental permit in respect of the proposed works, which would cover water quality and quantity of discharge entering Dobbs Beck. The application for the permit is still being reviewed by the Environment Agency. It is not possible, as part of the planning application under consideration, to confirm that a permit will be issued. That decision lies with the EA. In the event that the EA consider that discharge to Dobbs Beck would cause environmental harm, the environmental permit would not be issued. The works could not operate lawfully without the environmental permit. As such, it is considered that, subject to the aforementioned condition, no unacceptable adverse impacts on ancient woodland would arise from the proposal. This slide shows the location of the initial outfall from the works into Dobbs Beck, which flows north to join with Spixworth Beck, which discharges into the River Bure upstream of Wroxham. Concern is expressed by third parties in relation to impact on wildlife, natural springs, and meadows, marshes and wetlands adjoining Dobbs Beck. As shown on this slide, the route of the outfall pipe for the proposed works is situated within the northern part of Ladies Wood, Church Carron Springs County Wildlife Site. A further spring is situated approximately 400 metres northeast of the proposed outfall. The supporting ecological assessment concludes that the scheme will not impact the integrity of the County Wildlife Site, and the ecological impacts will be temporary and with negligible residual impacts on the County Wildlife Site. The assessment states that information on the pathways of potential impacts relevant to hydrology has been provided in the Shadow Habitats Regulations Assessment for the construction phase of the proposed wetland and proposed wastewater treatment works, and concludes that the works and associated wetland will not impact sensitive sites, including the nearby spring. As I mentioned earlier, the ecologist has been consulted on the application and raises no objection, subject to condition, and the works could not operate lawfully without an environmental permit for water discharge activity, which would cover quality and quantity of discharge entering Dobbs Beck. So I'll just go back to that one. Concern is also raised that there is currently no detailed modelling of flood risk for the area of Dobbs Beck. As set out in the report, detailed flood level information is not available from the Environment Agency, as Dobbs Beck is not a main river. The Beck is located in an area administered by the Norfolk Rivers Internal Drainage Board. In response to the concerns raised in relation to absence of hydraulic modelling, the applicant submitted a technical note which contends that it would be disproportionate to the scale of the watercourse, the lack of receptors and the scale of proposed development to conduct detailed hydraulic modelling on this watercourse. The technical note calculates that when fully operational, the flow from the works into Dobbs Beck during the design event, which is in the event of assessing flood risk, would equate to 0.25%. Norfolk Rivers IDB has been consulted on the application and comment that the proposed works and associated discharge will likely require consent from the IDB. The IDB have also reviewed the technical note and confirmed that the board are unlikely to require hydrological modelling when determining the application to discharge water into the board's drainage district. The development would result in a temporary increase in construction and delivery vehicle movements along the highway network. Once operational, the proposed development would generate a modest increase in traffic.
Now, straight away, I recognise that. That is just off the North Walsham roundabout.
Concerns raised by third parties in relation to potential problems
What am I missing?
on Beeston Lane and North Walsham Road. HGV routing for construction and operational phases will be via the A road network, including the A1270 and B1150 North Walsham Road. The Highway Authority raises no objection, subject to conditions in relation to visibility displays, construction transportation plan and HGV management plan.
So what are you telling me? There's more houses going there?
North from the vehicle access towards Spixworth and Crosswick. I would also draw members' attention to their duty under the Equality Act. As set out in section 8.3 of the report, objection is raised by a third party on the grounds that they have a health condition triggered by strong odours, and the odour from the proposed works would see their health deteriorate and affect their ability to work. It seems likely that the individual in question has a disability and is therefore protected under the Equality Act. In this case, members are required to consider that disability and therefore discharge their duty to have due regard when determining whether or not to approve the application under the public sector equality duty.
So what?
As regards mitigation that could be put in place to reduce the impact that the proposed works may have on persons with a disability related to odour emission from in the local area, Baldwin's Environmental Quality Team has recommended the inclusion of conditions in relation to boundary odour level and an odour management plan. Given the advice of the EQT, it is therefore considered that any potential negative impacts that the proposed works may have on persons with a disability related to odour emission in the local area can be mitigated.
Yeah, this is the countryside. We have fresh air here. We can blow our nose at the end of the day and it is clear, unlike London, unlike other cities, unlike even Norwich is getting, I'm afraid.
Of the Beeston Park development, including up to 3,520 dwellings, which would be affordable dwellings.
3,500 houses in one fucking go. Again.
Could be acceptable at this location and would not be out of character for the immediate area.
We are on the cusp of a possible war and they want to build houses.
It's not considered that the proposal would give rise to unacceptable impact to local amenity in accordance with the relevant planning policies and the requirements of the NPPF.
Oh my God.
As regards biodiversity, it's considered that subject to the recommended conditions.
Where's our Norfolk County councillors in this? Where's Salt Penfield? Where's Lucy Shires? What?
Woodland in terms of the construction
Are you playing that?
To appropriate conditions, it's considered that the proposal would not result in the loss or deterioration of ancient woodland. In terms of the operational phase,
Ancient woodland, the stone wall historic place, or Weaver's Way historic place. You just sold them all off, haven't you? And none of you have said a damn fucking thing. Oh my God. So straight away we're looking at 9,000 houses. And
as regards potential impacts in relation to groundwater and surface water quality and resources, the Environment Agency is a regulatory body responsible for ensuring that discharges in the ground and surface water do not harm water quality. The Environment Agency's environmental permitting process would cover quality and quantity of discharge entering Dobbs Beck. When exercising planning judgment, significant weight is given in the planning balance to the public benefit.
So you're building these so you can build more houses.
3,520 dwellings. Subject to the implementation of the recommended conditions, it is concluded, on balance, that the proposed development would be an acceptable would be acceptable and would be in accordance with the policies contained within the development plan, and no material considerations sufficient to outweigh the plan have been identified.
Oh
The
my
application
God.
is therefore recommended for approval.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Any questions for the officer?
Oh my God. They have sold off Norfolk. And they're humouring us by allowing us to come up with a unitary system.
Having trouble with them on my laptop. So one of the things which I'm curious about is obviously the treatment works is going to remove stuff so that the outflow effluent going back into the water system is going to be somewhat purified. But what happens to the stuff that's removed?
As part of the treatment process, yes, I mean the liquid element would be treated and discharged into Dobbs Beck. There'd also be a sludge that's formed as part of that process. That will need to be tankered away, so there'll be four tankered movements per month to remove that sludge and take it to a sludge treatment centre for further treatment.
Oh my God.
That would arise through the process.
No.
Removed from the works.
No.
Follow-up?
No.
With that stuff then that's
You're going to make Norfolk stink.
will that be further processed so it can be used in some way elsewhere? I would imagine would be sort of valuable stuff in one way or another.
That is common practice. I mean, on some sites they do compost it, and you can add it to soil as a sort of soil improver, stroke fertiliser.
Which will still make Norfolk stink, but we do that anyway on our fields without having any chemicals. Use manure.
Development that the wastewater treatment centre would serve.
Don't
But
we?
originally there was going to
You
be
know,
temporary waste treatment.
that's what all these people from London keep coming up and going, oh, it stinks in there. Well, yeah, this is
1,208
countryside.
houses. But now I understand that that's not going to happen. It would either be tankered away or put directly into Dobbs Beck. Which is of course an area where we are concerned about nutrient neutrality going into the issues affecting the Broads. What happens
There's a
if,
better way of doing
for some
this, and this
reason,
isn't it.
the housing development stops at 1,308 houses and there is no waste treatment works there at all? Things can change, and a lot of houses with the potential to impact greatly. Can you just expand upon that and sort of think forwards about eventualities, please?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the wastewater treatment works coming on stream, that would be required once 50 houses are developed. Prior to that, any effluent arising from those properties would be tankered away for treatment. But the works themselves, that's required upon 50, or it would be developed upon 50 houses being occupied. You've referenced 1,308 dwellings. That relates to the wetland. The associated wetland, that is required once 1,308 houses are developed. So I mean, there wouldn't be any discharge of any untreated effluent in the Dobbs Beck.
And if I just might follow up about the hydrological assessment, the applicant doesn't think that's really relevant, but you know, in the area of climate change, flood risk is real and it's growing. So could you comment on that, please, as to why it wouldn't be necessary to have hydraulic modelling of flood risk?
Yes, I mean that question was raised with the applicant, and for the reasons I explained in the report, it was considered or wasn't considered appropriate in this instance. I mean, having said that, the technical note they did do some calculations, and they calculated that in the worst event, the element of discharge from the works into Dobbs Beck as a proportion of the total flow would only be 0.25%. So, I mean, notwithstanding that they haven't carried out any hydrological modelling for the purposes of the flood risk assessment for planning purposes, the applicant would still have to satisfy the requirements of the Internal Drainage Board, because they control that area of Dobbs Beck into which the discharge will be what will take place. the environmental permit will also cover not only quality of the discharge, but also the quantity of the discharge as well. So again, the Environment Agency will have regard to climate impact or climate change going forward in terms of the volume of discharge to Dobbs Beck.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Carpenter, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I have two short questions, if I may. You've just explained, Andrew, that there are 4 movements per month to take away the sludge. In addition to that, how many other vehicle movements are concerned with that site when it's in full operation? I didn't see it in the papers, but perhaps I didn't look close enough.
I'm just turning to the relevant part of the report. Just bear with us, please. Yeah, it's at paragraph 3.137. Removal of sludge would generate 4 sludge tanker visits per month, and in addition, chemical tankers will be required to access the site on a monthly basis.
Do you know how many in a month, in addition to the...
I think it's think I'm pretty certain it would be one a month.
Oh, just one. Okay,
Yeah.
lovely. And the second one is what's the timeline for construction on this? Assuming this planning permission was granted, what is the timeline on the construction? How long will it take to build?
To be honest, I don't know how long the actual construction of the works would require, but notwithstanding, the works would be required to be in place upon occupation of 50 houses as part of that Beeston Park development.
Okay,
So
has the construction of the houses actually begun there?
Not as far as I'm aware.
Okay,
No.
so it's sometime in the future.
Yes,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I appreciate it. You probably won't be able to pin a date on that.
Yeah.
Lovely, thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions sort of intertied. We normally, when we come to planning decisions, it's based on what there is in front of us. Are we also taking into consideration what there will be there? Because this has got 3,500 houses planned in the area. So that's the first one, is are we judging it on potential of what will be there that we know of? And the other is just like on your maps, if you could show me exactly where the 3,500 properties are in relation to this site. Do they surround it? Are they away from it? I couldn't quite work out the relationship.
I do apologise. We appear to be having another technical issue.
Apologies. During the interlude, what I would say, I think the general question there was about the assessment of any impact on existing and proposed, and I think that's a bit of an echo there. Is that, oh gosh, guilty. It would include proposed. Does that answer your query on that point? Yeah, and obviously.
I've got to unmute mine. All that chuntering I've been doing. Does that mean you didn't hear any about that map? Oh, God.
In terms of the area of the development, the subject of that planning permission, I know it's probably not that easy to see, but there's a red line here which is the application boundary. It's roughly this area here. So it's either side of the North Walsham Road, to the north of Old Cat and Spruceton.
Oh, God, they're joining it all up.
Yeah, the treatment plant is to the northeast of that development, where my cursor is now.
I moved to North Walsham to be in the countryside. I didn't move to North Walsham
it's
for it to
separated from the
expand
housing
back into
development by the Broadland Northway in the
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Reading through the report, various reassurances are given that odour exposure levels emanating from the proposed site should be negligible, which is hopefully reassuring. But sort of reading through the representations that have been made, I wonder if I could have some comment on the comment regarding what happens in the event of high winds and gusts. Has that been factored into that assessment? Second,
They sold off Thorpe St Andrews Hospital, and they turned it into. They had to keep the main bit because it was protected, whatever that word is called. and like the Norwich Hospital, and they built flats and houses and flats and big complex, huge. That sell-off should have been enough to buy the new hospital, but we won't go into that. And unfortunately, near Posek, at the end of the NDR, there is like sewer works around there. I assume there is, because there's always a smell at a certain time when the wind gusts. You smell it. And it goes across to Thorpe St Andrews Old Hospital. And when they started to build this, us locals were like laughing, because people don't realise that they're now going to spend a few $100,000 on these lovely flats, that there's going to be certain times where they're not going to be able to have their windows open because it's going to stink. And I can't help but feel this could be going the same way.
Question really relates to noise, and again, really further details, please, with regard to what additional noise assessments has been made, or will it be necessary, to undertake an additional noise assessment when the wastewater treatment work specification has been finalised, and what measures will you be putting into place to ensure that the noise consultant's recommendations are closely adhered to? Thank you.
In terms of high winds and gusts, in relation to odour, I mean, there will be a boundary odour limit as recommended by the Environmental Health Officer. So, I mean, in the event that it is perceived that as a result of the high winds that odour is experienced, then monitoring could be undertaken to assess whether or not that odour level was being breached. I mean, in addition to the actual odour boundary limit, the applicant is also required to undertake an odour survey within the first 3 months to assess whether or not the works is operating in accordance with that boundary odour limit. There's also be required to identify any further mitigation measures that may be required to prevent odour nuisance. And they'd also be required to conduct a programme of ongoing monitoring to also identify whether any further mitigation is required. So you would expect that eventualities such as high winds would be captured as part of that ongoing monitoring that's expected as part of that condition. In terms of noise, just going through the conditions. Yeah, I mean, again, in terms of noise, there is a boundary noise limit that's been recommended by the EHO. So again, if it was thought that boundary noise level is being exceeded, again, monitoring could be undertaken to assess whether or not that was the case. As I understand, the actual specifications of the plant haven't yet been finalised. That's been undertaken in conjunction with the Environment Agency. But the noise assessment did mention about mitigation measures that may be required, and one of the conditions does require details of those mitigation measures to be submitted to the County Planning Authority for approval. But ultimately, there is a boundary noise level to control the level of noise.
Possibly you'd have thought they would know does Rackheath? I
Thank you very
mean,
much. Councillor Long.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I've visited several wastewater treatment works because I have fun days out like that. Obviously there's a real difference between the best managed sites and the not so well managed sites. And
yeah,
the
I
thing that
bet.
seems to make the biggest difference in terms of smells and odours, in my experience, which as I said involves several different sites, including one which was a test bed for a reed filtration, natural reed filtration system, which I must say is a real bonus for biodiversity. I mean, it really does promote wildlife. And that is whether or not there is importation of any commercial output that needs to go through a water treatment facility. Is this facility purely for the domestic dwellings being built in the locality, or is there any proposal to import material from, let's say, commercial sources? And the worst experiences and the worst experience I've had in terms of smell is where importation from the food industry, where obviously the digestion that's done within the stomach is then happening within the outputs from the food processing factories. And that makes a huge difference to the smells that emanate from such facilities, Chair. Keeping it as nice and pleasant as I can. Oh, the joys of being an environment portfolio holder back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the question. As it stands, the works is intended to deal solely with the effluent from the Beeston Park development. It doesn't provide for any importation of waste arising from anywhere outside that development.
I was just asking the officer if we can actually condition that, because that seems something that should be controlled going forwards. I have to say the story sounded gross, and if I was a resident nearby that, I don't think I'd want imported animal waste coming into the plant,
No.
creating that kind of smell. So if we can make sure that's covered, that would be great.
Definitely control.
Chairman, if you want to propose a condition, I'm happy to second it.
And
yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to add that we have actually recommended the condition that restricts the nature of the waste to be treated by the works to solely that rises from the Beeston Park development, to cover that eventuality.
Fantastic, thank you.
It still needs to be put through.
Kittle Morris.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. All the amenities
Did anyone second that?
that we placed on this
Are we just going to take his word for it?
approved, they're all monitored by the local district council, are they not? Broadland District Council. Are you happy, or is their environmental team happy to monitor that? And have they got the facility to carry on monitoring as it goes through probably 5 or 6, 10 years of development of those 3,000 homes?
There you go. Between
In terms
5
of
and 10
the conditions
years
on the
for this
county
development.
council
Living in a
permission, the onus would
fucking
fall
building
upon
site and having to
the
put up
county
with all of
planning
that.
authorities, enforcement officers to undertake that function. Having said that, obviously some of those there is in terms of odour and noise,
And
there might be a need for a collaborative approach with Broadland Council. I mean, whilst we do have noise measuring equipment, I'm not aware that we've got anything to in terms of odour, so we would have to call upon the EHO and form a collaborative approach with them in the event that were concerns voiced about odour impact.
Councillor Story.
Thank you, Chairman. Just really a point you ought to notice that Councillor Long's following on from his observations. It strikes me that when these facilities are generally built, they're generally built to a capacity standard. And is this particular facility, we're just talking about that development of number of houses at this moment in time. Is this facility being built to take extra capacity? Because with the climate change situation we seem to be living at the moment, the water runoff, things like that, is that all taken into account? Because the last thing a plant wants to be doing is run its maximum potential all the time. That you want spare capacity, you want a big machine for a little job, so it's more efficient. Is this based on the same sort? Is this taken into consideration in this particular development?
Don't forget, look at what's happening at Worcester.
In terms of the the throughput that would be managed by the plant, that's
factories
solely
on
foul water.
an extra
In
6
terms
weeks
of
onto its
surface water,
build. So it's going to be higher than the church
arises
there.
within the wider Beeston Park development. There are sustainable drainage systems to capture any clean surface water, infiltration basins and what have you across that development.
Or basins.
The works themselves will only be treating foul water. There'll be with the exception of
So
surface
we are going
water
to be
from the
living
actual access
around
track, there'll be more
basins,
surface water
industrial
rising from the Beeston
estates
Park
and
development that
plants
passes
like
through
this.
through the wastewater.
And we're meant to be North Norfolk for tourism, with the beaches,
Obviously, that's
and the
calculated
quaint
the amount of
areas and the
treatment works
historical
which
areas
the capacity will be taken through.
will be wiped away.
My question is there extra capacity for that foul treatment?
I know it sounds dramatic, but that's what I'm hearing.
The works would be sized to cater for the foul water arising from those 3,500 dwellings. Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, in terms of surface water, that would be that.
You come and live right near that. So if and when it does flood, your house, your family will
Thank
be
you very much.
affected
I don't
first.
see any other members'
about that?
hands asking questions. Oh, sorry.
Because I wouldn't want to live with it. What mortgage company is going to take on a house with a mortgage with all those risks?
I presume there are no combined, I mean, this is the Broadland application. I presume there are no combined sewers on that site. And what is there a condition on their planning permission for those 3,000 odd homes that the surface water runoff from roofs and other, you know, the downpipes, that doesn't go into the foul sewer, because that causes problems everywhere. I live within a quarter of a mile of a wastewater treatment plant, which is subject to combined sewers from 3 or 4 villages, and that does run at full capacity all the time when it rains.
What I can confirm, it's my understanding that there aren't any combined, or the treatment works won't be accepting any flow from any combined system. It's solely foul water arising from those houses.
Oh, Councillor Long.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Thanks. I mean, that's quite helpful in terms of the answer. I mean, building regulations now stipulates that you can't put surface water down the foul drain, and has been for quite some years.
But people don't
problem,
always stick
of
to
course,
it.
comes
I've seen
with
businesses.
the capacity and where that outfall finds itself to. And if there are SUD schemes that allow permeation into the ground in sort of balancing ponds around the development, which is normal, ultimately the field that's there now has a runoff rate of a field. It rains everywhere, permeates into the ground, finds its way out. Now that water will be finding its way out at a different rate, and there will of course be a calculation, probably a payment made to the drainage board for the carriage of that water once it gets off the site. That increases, if that capacity runoff rate increases, that in turn puts more into the beck in question, which of course further dilutes down any output from the reed bed. All of that water will find its way there by natural permeation, and that's that permeability which is causing the very problem of what this is trying to deal with, which is nutrient neutrality. So providing both work hand in hand, you should have the answer to your problem. It's when one is out of kilter with the other, or too much wastewater is going down to foul drains, where treatment plants are getting overwhelmed and outputs from them are contaminating rivers, and that's what we don't want to see.
I don't think that was a question, was it? No, I didn't. I was looking hard for the question in there and I just struggled to find it. Councillor Sands.
It was a well-made statement. Very well-made statement.
Thank you, Chair. Really following up from Councillor Story's questions before, if I was a developer and I came along at some future date and I decided to build another 1,500, 2,000 houses adjacent to this development, from the answer to Councillor Story's question, there would be no additional capacity at this to process whatever arises from my development. So does that mean the waste treatment plant would have to be expanded or a new one built elsewhere?
Sorry, Andrew, do you want to take that one? Yeah, basically that decision would have to be made if and when those circumstances arose. There'd either need to be a revision of this, which would have to come before planning again, or there would be another fresh planning application with another sewage, or wastewater treatment works for some other location to deal with that new development to which you refer. And while I've got the mic, I'll just go back to Councillor Story's point, is that the surface water will have future capacity built in. The Flood Authority would assume, I think it's about 40% increase due to climate change in there, so there is additional capacity in the networks.
Okay, I think I've cleared all of the hands. Councillor Wymark, would you like to speak first or last?
I'll speak first.
Okay, over to you then, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, committee, for listening to me today. I've come today as the county councillor and the district and the parish councillor who covers this area. Okay, so I cover it in many, many ways. So it impacts upon where quite a lot, really. I know this development has been coming for a long time. And with nutrient neutrality, we have been very worried about the water treatment, where it's going to go. This water treatment plant
and flooding,
it affects a lot of areas. I mean, lots of things that have been discussed today already is around the ancient woodland, obviously the Broad Authority, you know, the area of special area of conservation.
I don't realise. I don't.
There's lots of unanswered questions.
Many people know about all what's being planned.
Although I've hoped to hear reassurance that there will not be pollution going into Dobbs Beck, I'm not 100% sure of that. Obviously, the Environment Agency still has yet to issue the environmental permit, so they're not clear about whether or not this is okay or not.
It's not.
So that condition needs to be put. Obviously, well, the condition is within the paper, should I say? I know that condition's there. So it's really important that we go through that process. So I almost feel like we're sort of jumping the gun here, really.
No, we're not. I don't think so. I think we're just being very, very thoughtful of the issues. Let me find the maps again. Just so I can have another look. What have we got here? Oh look, we've got the North Horsham Community Centre. Right, if we follow the road down, follow all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. Let's just bring you over with me. Now, I think I was on silent before, which sometimes isn't a bad thing. All the way down, here's Crosswick, here's Spixworth. What they're talking about is this area right here. 3,000 homes going to be built. This area here, because of what I was explaining before, because of the NDR and the runoff of the water, they've had to build these basins to help with flooding. Because Norfolk is a flood risk because of the marshlands and how Norfolk is. So, just to quickly run through it again. This is the North Horsham Road. So this is a 1 lane coming on to a 3-lane roundabout. The entrance they're talking about just here, which is crazy because it's a 3-way roundabout that they're going to come off onto a single road, not a dual carriageway road, and they're going to want to cross over this oncoming single lane traffic onto a 3-way roundabout to get the entrance to drive all the way down here, up here, to then gather the sludge and to remove the sludge to keep the smell down. because this is going to be a runoff of the sewers, was it? And they need to build the first 50 houses to do the plant. And then once they've done the plant, they are then fit to go to build the rest of these 1,000 odd or 2 houses that will join up Crosswick and Rackheath. I need to come out a little bit. And then a further more 3,000 houses across Rackheath. They've not shown, I mean, this is all, they've done all new build up here. A lot of all new, oh, this new build. Oh my God. Sorry, I've gone again.
As you say about odour, there's a big concern around odour. I think initially when we looked at this water treatment plant, it was.
No, I'm guessing you probably didn't hear or see any of that.
It's an open plant. There will be odour. There's no doubt at all.
Yeah.
There will be odour. We're talking about removal of sludge. Now, I find it very difficult to understand how 4 or 5 movements per month, 4 of sludge and 1 of chemical, can cover this, particularly when.
Yeah. In this bit, 3,000 homes.
Obviously, we're talking about tankering off effluent at the start of the development. I know that's only for the first 50 houses because the water treatment plant will be finished at that point. I get that. But I know the impact upon, well, locally in Wroxham or Werry Gardens. They weren't connected up to the main sewer for a few years. And you know, there were tankers going in almost daily, taking effluent away, and the impact that it had. So I know once again that's going to be the same here. It just is something I think we need to consider. Well, I know you're considering it. I know your due diligence, you will be. You talk about statutory nuisance, obviously the odour. I cannot believe that there won't be odour here. And I know we're saying about the environmental health officer getting involved and checking upon this. However, I don't know. There's lots and lots of unanswered questions to me. I just ask that, that all of these conditions, as you say, that are absolutely necessary to ensure this does not pollute this local area are considered and are within the conditions. Because otherwise, as I say, you've got an area, and I know the landowner here, or the representative of the landowner is going to speak too. And
oh, really?
Be much more eloquent than me, speaking about the water courses locally, because he knows them much better than I do. But there is big concern locally, and I say it would be remiss of me not to come and speak about that. So I should just really seriously consider, if you can't refuse this plan application, make sure there's sufficient conditions in place to ensure...
You have one minute.
Oh, okay, thank you. There's sufficient conditions in place to ensure that we do not get this pollution, we do not impact upon the chalk streams, and obviously, the wetlands, etc., are in a good place and don't significantly impact upon local people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Councillor Wymark? No? Okay, then I will go on to Jim Papworth, please. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Oh, right. No, I'll sit down if I may. Thank you.
Granted.
I speak, Chairman,
boy,
and councillors, as the long-standing director of the estate at Wroxham. a responsibility that I take very seriously, as it comprises of a very large and precious area of the Norfolk Broads. I really only learned recently that the foul water from this very large development would jeopardise all that is good about the estate. Hence my presence here to object on the grounds of quality, quantity and odour. Now I'd like to tell you all about Dobbs Beck. I don't think many people had heard of Dobbs Beck before this all came up. Dobbs Beck is an IDB ditch which arises at the Springs, which is a fishing lake within 100 metres of the Wroxham Road roundabout on the NDR.
I didn't realise it was a fishing lake.
The Springs, as its name suggests, consists of springs and is a very special fishery. Dobbs Beck then travels miles, and I mean miles, through land of very high ecological sensitivity and importance, and it travels through a number of wetland habitats of high environmental quality.
True.
Which is highly likely would be adversely affected by the quantity and quality of this discharge.
Oh, he's got...
It then joins Spixworth Beck, which eventually feeds into the River Bure, well upstream of Wroxham. The River Bure and its catchment area are central to the Norfolk and Suffolk Broads National Park and are a key area of international importance for wildlife. All of these water bodies are a source of irrigation water for our crops and, importantly, for vegetables for human consumption, and furthermore provide water for our cattle. It is accepted that a growing population needs to be housed and that Beeston could play a part in this. However, Chairman, it is the job of our present generation to make absolutely sure that in doing so, the environment in which we live is not jeopardised for future generations by the way we do it. Turning the Dobbs car into an area, a sewage treatment plant, has very serious implications for this. The records of the water industry in managing these matters is very poor, both locally and nationally, which gives us great cause for concern. Those who travel along the A47 and past the Whitlingham Works will know of the stench which you normally get if your windows are open in your car.
Yeah, what was I saying
There are
earlier?
unresolved problems there and at Beela, so we include odour as one of our fears,
Probably
as well
can't
as
hear
the
it.
quality
You
and
moved at the
quantity
time.
of possible consequences. All of these factors could be much worse in periods of sudden or heavy rainfall, themselves becoming more likely due to global warming. In financial terms, the potential damage to the Wroxham estate could amount to many millions, but the damage to Norfolk could be beyond price.
Absolutely.
Despite these threats, at no time have any representatives of the local authorities or national bodies or the developers or their advisors consulted us to learn about the problems these can pose to us. I ask why not? Everybody needs to know the consequences of this development if it went ahead.
You have 1 minute, sir.
I brought along a copy of
Let
the
him
Eastern
finish.
Daily Press, which many of you might
You only
have
keep
seen
it there
on
for
Monday.
goodness sake.
A very, very important article about water in our Broads area, and I'm willing to pass it round or provide it for people if they'd like to see it. I also brought along some water samples. I brought some spring water arising on the Wroxham estate, which you can see is crystal clear.
It's going to be powerful, isn't it?
And I also brought along some water, which you can see is a different colour and it's got bits and pieces floating about in it. I brought some cups along. Anybody that wants to try the water from the springs are very welcome, but I can't recommend you to try the water from the Beela Sewage Works. Councillors, I must ask you to consider this plan very carefully. Is it correct to condemn Wroxham and all that area comprises for this additional questionable water to be added to what is already far from perfect?
Absolutely.
I'm prepared to answer questions, sir, if there are any.
Thank you very much.
Well,
Do members have any questions for Mr. Papworth?
I need to find out who this guy is.
Okay, we will move on to the applicant or agent, William
No
Kelly
questions.
and Hugh Evans.
Nobody
You'll have
wanted to
2.5
speak to him,
minutes each.
Am I on? Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Hugh Evans. I'm the Managing Director of Quinn Estates, the delivery partner of Stretton Beeston, the master developer and owners of the Beeston Park site. As set out in the officer report, Beeston Park is a significant new community of over 3,500 homes to the north of Norwich, allocated within the wider designated growth triangle. Beeston Park was first granted planning permission in 2015, with various amendments to the scheme in 2017. We, Stretton Beeston, purchased the site in 2023, and our role over the last 3 years has been to resolve the numerous matters that have stalled the delivery of this site. Quinn Estates, we have a significant track record of delivering schemes of this nature and pride ourselves on our ability to resolve problems that unlock projects such as this. The most recent of these, as you've heard, we've been grappling with is nutrient neutrality. To ensure nutrient neutrality can be achieved, a detailed strategy has been agreed with Broadland District Council and Natural England. The key measures for this are the delivery of the wastewater treatment works before you and the adjoining wetland that has recently been granted planning permission by Broadland District Council. These components ensure that the delivery of Beeston Park will result in no additional nutrient loading to the designated protected areas. The entire development will be connected to the new works, completely avoiding the Anglian Water foul drainage network. I'm here today with William Machiavelli of Severn Trent Connect, who will focus on the works and the role of Severn Trent Connect as the owners and operators of the works.
So
you will see from the comprehensive officer's report that the proposal and the suggested conditions ensure the works will have no unacceptable impact on residential amenity, landscape or highways, and that its location on a small area of agricultural land adjoining Dobbs Beck watercourse and proposed wetlands
30 seconds, sir.
is compliant with policy. The report, as well as case law and guidance, makes clear that the environmental permitting process will ensure there is no unacceptable impact on water quality. We hope that your officers,
what's going on?
We hope that, as recommended by your officers, you will approve the application in front of you.
Thank you very much. Go straight on to William Machiavelli.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee and public. I'm William Machiavelli, head of Severn Trent Connect, the statutory wastewater services provider appointed by Stretton Beeston to design, build, operate and maintain the Beeston wastewater treatment works.
There you go.
This application supports the delivery of high-performance wastewater infrastructure to serve Beeston Park only, enabling up to the 3,500 new homes in full alignment with nutrient neutrality objectives. Connect holds a statutory instrument of appointment to provide regulated sewerage services and has applied to Ofwat for the necessary appointment to serve Beeston Park.
So you're going to be a private company looking after this sewage of Beeston Park?
Having already gone through a draft review with no concerns raised. Our regulated boundary for this scheme mirrors the planning boundary of Beeston Park, thus ensuring the facility is expressly limited to serving that development alone, protecting the nutrient budget and preventing unregulated intensification unless further regulatory approval is secured. As part of the Severn Trent plc, one of the UK's largest water groups, we bring operational strength, engineering expertise and the regulatory experience required to deliver and maintain a facility of this scale and complexity. Our approach draws on a proven combination of treatment technologies brought together to reliably achieve the stringent effluent standards required to support both nutrient neutrality and protect the local water environment while ensuring robust long-term performance. The plant will feature high levels of automation and monitoring supported by process redundancy, enabling consistent compliance and early intervention when needed. We're committed to being a responsible operator and a good neighbour. Customers and stakeholders can raise concerns with Ofwat and the Consumer
Stakeholders. Stakeholders again. It's a business. People are there to make money, not
30 seconds, sir.
for a facility to run
additional routes.
Non-profit.
This is a carefully planned and necessary investment in sustainable infrastructure, and we requestfully ask your support in helping it progress. Thank you.
So the stakeholders can take the money away, and if anything needs to happen, there's no money there.
The application. Start with Councillor Long at the back.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Obviously, I, like probably most of the committee, have grave concerns on what we've heard, because we constantly have media that reports what happens in traditional water
I like this guy, and I
facilities.
cannot remember what his name is.
There is an inundation caused by, large amounts of rainfall, etc. What we have to, I guess, establish within all of this is what's being proposed best practicable means to deliver the treatment of that water. Because if it's put into place and doesn't work, or there are odour breaches, or there are the output is not as it should be, you can't tell 3,500 people who bought a new house, don't flush your loos or have a shower, and don't even think about putting the washing machine on, because we can't get the output right at the other end of the process.
There's areas like
so
that.
We have to have absolute assurance that what's being proposed is the best practicable
as well,
means.
which
And my understanding is that the reed bed filtration system is probably as good, if not better, than anything man has been able to produce, and that's why, where possible, suppliers of sewage removal, such as Anglian Water, are actively putting reed bed filtration systems on the back end of existing facilities to achieve exactly what's being proposed here. And the difference between a reed bed filtration system and the amount of concrete infrastructure you need to do the same amount of filtration is vast, absolutely vast. And I've seen that with my own eyes at the facility at Inglethorpe. And I've smelt it with my nose as well. And it is rather better than the treatments where importation of other material is, which is why I raised the point earlier. And so we have a quandary. Do we trust the science of what's being presented to us as best practical means, or do we say, no, you can't deliver this housing scheme? And it's a bit of a tall order for us to have to establish that, weighted against the concerns of the public, who are constantly receiving media stories of what happens with the old infrastructure, the old ways of things. And so you didn't ask if we had any questions, particularly for the applicants that spoke, but I'm sort of leading towards a question to the applicant, if I could, and that is, are they absolutely certain that what they're proposing is the absolute best practicable means to make sure that the output from their facility, once it's been through the filtration of the plant and the reed bed, delivers exactly the outcomes that our other speaker is looking for?
Terribly sorry, I didn't ask a member for questions, so yes, I'm very happy to ask questions of the applicant.
Yeah, I think it's important to realise that this isn't the first hurdle to have to overcome to get this approved. We've had to go through an 18-month process with the EA, and as you've heard, we're still not quite there yet. So they're obviously looking at this incredibly diligently, and as part of the reserve matter application for the first phase on Beeston Park, we had to do something called an appropriate assessment that was assessed by Natural England, that had the detail of that treatment plant to make sure that it achieved necessary levels of nutrients and nitrates and phosphates going out into the watercourse such that there was no negative impact on the water. So it's not really just you that has to make that decision. There are others that have already made that decision, and in turn will make that decision further, as well as you have the statutory authority Ofwat, which oversees Severn Trent Connect, and they have a huge obligation to behave in certain ways to the government body. Just to come back as well on the wetland, there is an enormous wetland on this site as well. So the treatment plant treats 1,308 houses, but the wetland, which is effectively your reed bed, treats another 2,200. So it's a combination strategy that you just exactly described.
Can I then Thanks for the answer. I appreciate that. Can I then have clarification from the officers? The reed bed is a separate planning application that has been given permission by the local authority, but it's going to deal with some of the homes' capacity, and this is going to deal with the others. Now, is this going to deal with the houses that are built first and the reed bed come in afterwards? Because as far as I'm concerned, if you're putting in a scheme that includes the benefits of the reed bed filtration, we almost need to condition what we're doing to make sure that is in operation as well. Because for the first 1,300 and whatever houses it's calculated out to, you may as well have the benefit of the filtration in addition to what the plant is doing on its own, and then monitor. And so that at a stage in the future, if you've got to the next, if you've got problems at 1,350 houses, you wouldn't build 1,351, would you?
In terms of the wetland, yes. I mean, you're correct that has already got the benefit of a separate planning permission that was issued by Broughland Council. The housing development, that's also subject to a Section 106 agreement that, as part of that, captures the nutrient neutrality strategy, of which the wetland and the treatment plant form two component parts. I mean, as it stands, the wetland isn't required until such time as 1,308 houses are developed. Between 50 houses and up to 1,308, the wastewater treatment works will be working in isolation. There'll be the direct
just for that area. Does that mean we've got North Walsham? Is North Walsham going to be having?
Then the discharge will be into the wetland for further treatment.
I would still concur that the best practicable means is to put the wetlands in place first and let nature do its job.
Okay, well that's noted. Go on to Mike Sands, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to lend my support to everything that Councillor Long has just said. He has a lot of experience with inland waterways and drainage systems, so I respect his views. But one of the things that occurs to me is, you know, we're taking a lot of things on trust. And we know, for example, that across the entire country, privatised water companies have made borrowings of 80 billion or more and given very little back in return. Now, this is a relatively small scheme when we compare it to the whole national infrastructure. And so I suppose, in a way, it's sort of a pilot scheme. And we do need all of these reassurances, because this will have an impact not just locally and not just on the Broads in terms of impact on the environment, but I suppose it's under a national spotlight as well in terms of what can go forward. So we do need these reassurances. And I'm guessing that should Natural England not be reassured by this project and not issue the licenses, then the whole project won't go ahead. So, yeah, as I say, I support everything that Councillor Long has said.
Okay, thank you. Alexander Kemp, please.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to ask the applicant just to clarify, because you've said there's no risk at all of raw sewage entering the water system, water bodies, because there aren't going to be any combined sewers. But earlier on in the report it says that there's a nutrient neutrality strategy, and that refers to several existing septic tanks currently serving single houses to be upgraded to a more modern package treatment plant. So there are going to be some combined sewage structures there, and who's going to be paying for the upgrade to the modern package treatment plant?
Certainly not
is this going to
stakeholders.
be the households themselves? Is that going to be Severn Trent Water? How does that work, please?
So the 10 houses that we're taking off of septic tanks and changing to treatment plants. So a septic tank, effectively, you do have raw sewage entering into the water system. So at the moment, they've got very inefficient, very dirty systems that are currently negatively impacting the watercourse. So what we're doing is we're taking those septic tanks and we're changing them to small treatment plants. So each individual house will have a new treatment plant that will treat sewerage, wastewater, before it is actually discharged into the watercourse. So effectively, we're improving the standard of discharge of 10 houses that are currently.
So then the cost will come back on the house owner
In
to
terms of
fix
payment, it'll
that.
be us as the.
So you don't have to pay for it. So the stakeholders can earn more money.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Story, please.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
thank you, Chairman. Really, this is a question, I suppose, directed at both the developer and the objector, if I may say. The disappointing fact of these plan and applications, and this one in particular, is the fact that unfortunately the developer hasn't spoke to the objector probably, and the objector hasn't spoke to the developer. And if I personally think, especially on an application such as this, local knowledge is first and foremost where I would go to, because that's such an important issue. And people who have lived in that area for many years would know what is happening and has happened, and with climate change especially, what has occurred of recent times. So I just feel if conversations would have been had early in the
In
process,
Unitary,
I think some things
the
may be ironed out,
I
which
read
is
the other
coming to
day,
the public
they
domain
wanted
now.
skilled
I just
people,
feel
local
that if
people.
people would talk to
Here's
each
one
other,
right here.
that would be more beneficial than a lot what we have to do. I do believe that. Thank you, Chairman.
You're not listening to the
I
locals.
believe we do have a statement of community engagement, but again,
Community engagement.
applicants or objectors aren't obliged to adhere to it. And on this case, it seems clear they haven't spoken to each other, but I don't think that's a question that I want either applicant or objector to answer at this point.
Again, with the great respect, I do think that is a question. Did the applicant contact the landowner, or did the landowner contact the developer? I do think that is a question, Chairman.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
there you go.
I completely agree with you, and it's quite difficult to hear sometimes when there are comments like that. I think one of the things that happened with this application is that we only bought the site in 2023. So we bought it off of the previous failed developer who had got all of the original planning applications and all of the original outline planning approvals. So we took it on quite recently, if you like, and it came with an enormous amount of planning issues.
You took it on for the next stage.
And then all of a sudden we had nutrient neutrality. So I must admit you are probably right, and for that we apologise.
Well, then you have
we have had such
purchased
enormous
a,
issues because
what's
the
its
nutrient
name?
neutrality issue came after we bought the site. So we've
Pig in
we've had an absolute disastrous time trying to get this,
I don't know.
especially with all
what's
the
the
things that you've heard that we've had to go through with Natural England, the EA.
You didn't do your
We're still
research
going
before
through
you
Natural
bought
England
it
as part
to
of the
realise
process.
all of
So
this.
I think, noted, apologies, but we also bought the site off the local landowner, if you like. So we
But
we
you
have a
just
lot of
said-
engagement with the immediate locality, just because the
You
site
just
had
said you
various
bought it off
landowners who we are
the
familiar
person
with
before with the
already. But it depends how
applications.
far you
How
go
does
out.
that make sense?
But you're right, we could have made probably a better effort, but we have
Why
had our heads
not?
turned by some really quite serious issues.
Thank you very much.
Oh, gosh.
Did you want to comment on it as well, sir?
Yeah, go on.
Jim, Mr. Papworth?
Thank you, sir. No, we've had no contact with Southern
Jim
at all.
Hatsworth.
And I found that very, very disappointing that they couldn't have approached. Of course, the estate owns miles and miles of Dobbs Beck and Spixworth Beck, and that's where all the water discharge is going to go and go through Roxford. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Kittle-Morris?
Yes, thank you, Chairman.
They're not locals. They don't
couple of
know,
questions
do
to
they?
the developers, and
I think they can just come in and
the
build.
first one is, I've taken on board what Councillor Longer said about reed beds. If you were to start with a reed bed takes some time to establish, and it takes some time. Is that programmed in for the reason that I've just stated? It takes some time to establish a reed bed. And the second thing is, I think I heard somebody say that this is not an enclosed plant. Is that true, or is it enclosed? Are all the buildings enclosed to mitigate the odour problem?
It's very hard to link these two planning approvals because obviously they're from a district and from a county. as well as the EA has to then get involved in the order of which you do the works, and then you've got the IDB in turn, and that was somebody else that I didn't mention that we've got to get through on your behalf to make sure you're protected. So it's very difficult to link the treatment works, especially considering someone else is building it, we're building the wetland. That said, and the way that the site is progressing, it would be madness not to build the wetland as early as possible. You don't want to have to do all the works for the wastewater treatment works and have to come back and build the wetland.
Why not?
It just really depends on the delivery rate of the site.
So it's about
developers want to come forward
it's about
quickly.
being cost effective,
But I
so
would envisage
stakeholders
put
still
something about
retain
to
profit.
implement the wetland as soon as possible.
See, this is why these things need to be nationalised and not run by private
With
companies.
respect to your second point around whether it's going to be an enclosed treatment works or not, the answer is in part yes. So we will enclose the assets that are at the greatest risk.
Businessman right there, look at him. Look.
And those assets which aren't at risk of causing
Assets.
odour, we wouldn't enclose. So, for example, the sludge storage tank would of course be enclosed, whereas the aerated tanks wouldn't be enclosed. That wouldn't be normal practice.
Why they're aerated.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions that I haven't seen? No? Okay, we will move on to the recommendations then. The recommendation
We've still got
is
half an
regarding
hour of
the
this,
budget
so let's carry on waiting.
Section 11, and the deemed planning condition requiring submission of a biodiversity gain under paragraph 13 of section 7A of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990. I'm not going to read the next two because they're sitting in front of you. Can I have a show of hands in favour of the recommendation, please? They're creeping up slowly. 1, 2, 3.
That's unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. Then that application is passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
The application is passing it, so it's gone through, so it's allowed
Do
to happen.
members need a 5-minute comfort break before you go on to the next one?
So it's allowed to
No,
happen.
carry on. I'm very happy if that's the view. In which case, thank you very much to all on application 5.
Wow. Wow, so it was passed to go through, so it's accepted to continue to be built. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, this is where I am up to. You can have a quick peek. While they are still nattering away. But this is where I am up to. Once they start talking, we'll go back to them. But this is the... I've lost it. I need to take this speaker off again. Can you hear that? They're still having issues with their microphone.
I think we're close to being ready now, aren't we? Okay, I'm going to move on as best we can now to item 6, land to the north of Chaplin Road, Bradwell. Best of luck, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. I'll need it. Okay. I'll start off just by way of update. A number of the recommended conditions refer to condition X. For the avoidance of doubt, this refers to a related condition that requires submission and approval of a scheme. The appropriate number will be inserted in place of the X. I just thought I'd like to just clarify that for the benefit of
That's
members.
my dog drinking. I'm not sure if you hear that.
This report deals with a planning application for construction of a new 420
still
place
drinking.
2-form entry primary school on land to the north of Chaplin Road, Bradwell. The applicant is the Director of Children's Services. The application site relates to an irregular shaped parcel of land measuring some 1.63 hectares comprising of modified grassland, which was formerly an agricultural use, located to the north of Chaplin Road.
Agricultural,
The
again.
slide also shows the existing Homefield Primary School located to the north of the site and two other existing nearby schools.
Open the door for you, big sister.
The new school is required to allow the relocation of the existing Homefield Primary School to a larger site in order for the school to enlarge their form of entry from 1 to 2 and increase pupil roll from 210 to 420 pupils. This is to accommodate projected pupil growth within the area resulting from new development. The slide shows the location of the proposed site in relation to the wider permitted Bluebell Meadow development, which comprises of a mixed-use development to include a primary school. Construction of the wider surrounding development is partly completed. The proposed vehicular access to the site would be from Chaplin Road to the south. The application site boundary is largely consistent with the
How
land
can
identified
build
by
in
the
within
primary school on the
these
comprehensive
areas?
plan that accompanied the outline application for the wider development. As part of the outline planning application, Children's Services requested the scheme provide land for a new one-form entry primary school for 210 places, which could be expanded, if required, to 1.5 form entry, 315 places. A site of 1 hectare was identified for a single form entry school, and a reserve site of ½ hectare was identified to be made available should it be required. Since the outline application was approved, demand for school places has increased in Bradwell, and it is now proposed to provide a 2-form entry school on an expanded 1.63 hectare site.
I mean, you can't argue against that. The school needs to grow bigger, but
The proposed school layout includes a new building sited towards the central western part of the site, with car parking located to the south and west sides of the building, together with a hard play area and school playing field
oh my god,
to the north.
oh my god, can you see?
The application site
Look
is
at
bounded
that
to the
there.
east and
They're
west
going
by
to build
existing housing, and to the north by a
77,000,
parcel
sorry,
of land
77
subject to a planning application
dwellings
to
completely close that
which was
off.
reported to the meeting of the Great Yarmouth Borough Council Development Management Committee held on the 23rd of April this year, when it was resolved that permission be granted subject
We
to
can't have a
such
piece of
agreement
grass
and
anywhere,
conditions.
can we? Our
The site is
open
also bounded to the
spaces
south
are
by
getting
Chaplin
smaller.
Road, beyond which is a local shopping centre and open space. Objection is raised by Bradwell Parish Council, and representation is made by 7 members of the public.
I don't know how to
6
keep the
of whom make
booty, do
explicit
they,
objection
of
to
some
the
of these
proposals.
places?
The concerns relate primarily to highway impacts in terms of increase in traffic, congestion and parking issues in the local area, and impacts on amenity. Great Yarmouth Borough Council have been consulted on the application, and whilst not raising objection, comment that the scheme could benefit from some design improvements.
Look at
This
that,
matter
how
was referred to the applicant for
depressing.
consideration, which resulted in submission of an amended elevations drawing, as shown on this slide.
Why does that
The Borough
happen
Council has been
so
reconsulted
poorly?
on the amended proposal, but at the time of writing this
prison.
report, no further response has been received. The building has been designed to be 2 stories in scale to ensure sufficient land is retained for sports pitches, parking and natural habitat. The building is of a simple design with long elevations and flat roofs, which reduce the bulk and scale of the built
disabled
parapet walls to the
accessible?
roofs with partly screened roof-mounted plant and structures from longer views. The building is of a red brick construction with darker coloured red bricks forming a picture frame, enclosing a mix of light and dark coloured red bricks.
That ain't a picture frame.
A canopy with appropriate signage is proposed for the southern elevation to provide a clear identity for the main entrance to the school. As can be seen, the site is bounded to the east and west by residential development, comprising of a mix of 2- and 3-storey dwellings clad in red brick with pitched roofs. The site is bounded to
You
the
need to
east
find
and
the North
southeast by
Walsham
residential
Patton
development,
Green
and partly to the south by a
discussion
large
meeting.
single-storey commercial building with a shallow pitched roof.
Definitely.
The site is bounded to the southwest by Chaplin Road, beyond which is an area of open
This is
space
all
and
country.
beyond that further housing.
All country fields. This was
It is
all
considered
farm
that the
fields.
educational function of the proposal justifies a different form and design to the existing and proposed
That's-
housing, and that the scale of development and choice of materials reflects those of the surrounding area.
The
and the proposal with
wildlife
respect to local
again.
context.
Jesus Christ, where are they going to go?
As set out in the report, the proposal does not meet the recommendations of the Department for Education Building Bulletin 103, in respect of soft outdoor
Oh, look,
physical
they've got a
education
runway as well.
physical education. The applicant recognises that the
Oh,
site is
look.
constrained in terms of size and shape for a
What is
two-form
that?
primary school and states that some compromises were required to allow the school to operate efficiently. Sport England have been consulted on the application and raised no objection, subject to conditions.
Why would they? What? Why
The
would they?
proposed landscaping scheme includes planting of boundary trees and native hedgerows, habitat area,
Hedgerows?
wildflower meadow and rain gardens. The proposed layout also shows a pedestrian access link linking the school with the site to the north, which, as I mentioned earlier, is subject of a planning application for the erection of 77 dwellings. This slide shows the northern margins of the application site
I
and
mean, we can
part
tell
of the
these are all
adjacent
new
site
builds
for
as
the
well,
erection of
can't we?
77 dwellings. As regards the condition for the housing development to the north of the school site that relates to approved plans, it is noted that the alignment of the pedestrian
Look.
route through the housing development site
One road
has
in,
been
one road
amended
out.
such that the
Oh, hang
pedestrian
on, what's
link
going on
now
here?
adjoins
So
the northern boundary
they
of
want
the
to
school
join
site,
that up,
slightly further west than originally shown.
but not
As
join
such,
this
it would be
area up.
necessary for the alignment of the connecting footpath through the
Why-
school grounds
why
to be
haven't they joined
amended
this up?
in order that the section of path either side of the shared boundary join up.
So up that way, up that way.
Concerns expressed by local residents in relation to increase in noise. This slide shows the western part of the application site and its proximity to residential development. This slide shows the northern corner of the application site and its proximity to residential development. In terms of outdoor activity, hard physical education, soft informal play space and an outdoor dining / class space area would be located to the northern part of the site, with a habitat area located in the northwest corner. This slide shows the eastern part of the application site. In terms of outdoor activity, the soft outdoor physical education area, including football pitch and running track, would be located to the east and northeast of the school building, respectively.
So this is
As regards
fence.
noise from school activities, much of this would be contained within the building itself and would be largely restricted to school hours, with use of the outdoor spaces further limited to certain times of the school day, including pupil drop-off / collection, break times, outdoor physical education and outdoor dining / teaching. As regards use of the sport pitches outside of school
They're
hours,
hoping
and
people can
supporting
walk
design
to the
access
school
statements
rather
state
than
that
drive to
whilst
the
some
school.
sports pitch provision may be made available out of school hours, it is not anticipated that any specific allowance be made for this purpose. The proposed layout plan shows a parking area located to the west and south of the school building. This slide shows the proposed site boundary system and fencing systems, which include a 2.4 metre high
Be right back,
cross-board
hang on.
acoustic fence to the shared northwestern residential / car park boundary. The proposed layout plan also shows 8 air source heat pumps located in a fenced enclosure to the west of the school building. This slide shows the proposed 1.8 metre high compound within which the air source heat pumps will be sited, which includes a solid barrier for the western and northern facades of the compound. Great Yarmouth Borough Council Environmental Health Team have been consulted on the application and raised no objection, subject to conditions in relation to ground contamination, construction hours and plant noise mitigation. Concerns expressed by Bradwell Parish Council and local residents in relation to increase in traffic and congestion, existing parking issues in the local area and insufficient public transport. This slide shows the proposed location for vehicular access to the school from Chaplin Road. This slide, this slide shows a view looking southeast from the proposed vehicular access along Chaplin Road. The proposed school is located within land allocated as a mixed-use, sustainable urban extension. The proposed layout also offers non-vehicular travel choices from the wider residential area in the form of pedestrian / cycle access from Chaplin Road to the south and to the north of the site, linking through to the parcel of land subject of a planning application for the erection of 77 dwellings. In terms of parking, provision is made for 59 car parking spaces on the site and cycle and scooter parking. The Highway Authority has been consulted on the application
I wonder what a
There's
local
no
thing is.
objection
You think,
subject to conditions in relation to visibility displays, parking for construction workers, construction traffic management plan, off-site highway improvement works, traffic regulation order for weighting restrictions, travel plan and monitoring programme to assess the level of parental parking. The Highway Authority comment that has sought to secure off-road parental parking, but this has not been possible. The Highway Authority further comment that whilst the likely increase in parental traffic and parking would impact on the amenity of local residents at either end of the school day, subject to implementation of appropriate junction protection weighting restrictions, it is unlikely to present a highway safety concern. To conclude, it is considered that the principle of the proposed development could be acceptable at this location and would not be out of character for the immediate area. In terms of design, significant weight is given in the planning balance to the need to provide a replacement stroke new school to accommodate pupil demand in Bradwell. Whilst the form and massing of the school building would not match that of the neighbouring residential properties, it is considered that the educational function of the proposal justifies a different form and design to the existing and proposed housing.
the school
It's further
itself
considered that the scale of development
is an
choice of
ugly
materials
building.
reflects those of the surrounding area, and the proposal would respect the local context. No objections have been received on design grounds. On balance, it is considered that these material considerations outweigh the design shortcomings when assessed against the design policies of the Great Yarmouth Local Plan and the MPPF. In terms of area guidelines for school buildings and sites, it is considered that the benefits of providing a replacement stroke new school to accommodate pupil demand in Bradwell would outweigh the shortfall in site size as recommended by Building Bulletin 103. As regards potential impacts in relation to amenity overall, subject to the conditions, it is not considered that the proposal would result in an excessive or unacceptable impact on residential amenity in accordance with the relevant planning policies and requirements of the MPPF. As regards transport, whilst it is accepted that there would be an increase in associated parental traffic and parking, given the advice of the Highway Authority, it would be difficult to sustain an objection to the proposal on highway grounds. Subject to the recommended conditions, it is not considered that the proposal would have an adverse impact on the safety and efficiency of the local road network in accordance with the relevant planning policies and requirements of the MPPF. As regards sustainability, on balance, it is considered that the proposed development would contribute to the achievement of sustainable development and would not undermine the relevant planning policies, the MPPF or Norfolk County Council's environmental policy. As regards the loss of an area of best and most versatile agricultural land, given the small area of land involved and the fact that the proposed site is situated within the defined development limit and on land allocated as a mixed-use sustainable urban extension to Beacon Park, it is concluded that the proposal is not in conflict with the relevant planning policies and the objectives of the MPPF. Subject to the implementation of recommended conditions, it is concluded, on balance, that the proposed development would be acceptable and would be in accordance with the policies contained within the development plan, and no material considerations sufficient to outweigh the plan have been identified. The application is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Any questions for the officer? Okay, I'll start with Mike, and if the others keep your hands up, I'll write them down.
Thank you, Chair. It's always interesting and exciting to see a new school development coming forward. As a former teacher, I'm obviously interested in that. I'm also a former phys ed, sports and athletics coach as well. So I would like the reassurance that the provision for a running track and outside spaces is sufficient. For example, what size running track do they envision? I know myself, having marked out running tracks in the past, a 200-metre running track, for example, requires space 69 metres by 20 metres. I don't know what size running track they have in place, but given the state of education and inactivity of children, it's really, really important that we do give them adequate space to run around in and adequate provision for development of sports and physical activity.
I haven't got the specific dimensions available at this moment in time, but yes, I mean, as you can see, there is provision for a summer running track. There's also provision for a seven-a-side football pitch together with a rounders pitch as well. There's also a hard-surfaced multi-use games area to the west of the running track as well. As I said in the report, that Sport England have been consulted on the application and haven't raised any objection to the dimensions of the proposed pitch markings, either for summer or winter.
Councillor Sands, might I suggest you ask that of the applicant when they've spoken?
Yep, I will.
Councillor Kemp.
Yes, I'd like to hear more about the robust travel plans, because most of the objections really revolve around increased cars. So
Well,
how are parents going to
yeah.
be encouraged to undertake modal shift and leave their cars at home?
In today's society where everything's quick, quick, fast, 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 don't have a time
The
to
Highway
wipe
Authority
your
have
ass.
recommended that a condition be imposed that
You
a
want them
travel
to
plan
also
has to be
walk.
in place at the time that the school is first occupied, and then that will be reviewed within a certain timescale following the first occupation of the school.
Councillor Neal.
Well, one of my questions was going to be on the same subject, and from experience with the schools in my area, best of luck with the travel plan and getting parents to go by it, because it's like a battlefield, and it's physical as well. So there doesn't seem too many entrances or exits, so there's a lot of turning around. There's going to be a lot of... The travel plan will come at what stage? Because we don't have any opportunity to question that. And I'm not a betting man, but I would put money on that's going to be Armageddon there. And just a few other questions. It's great to see that you've got ground source heat pumps going in there. I don't know whether I missed it, but are there plans for solar panels as well? Yeah. Do they estimate how much of their own needs will be supplied by renewable energy? And there's one other question I can just slip in there. Does the design include swift boxes in the building material?
Yeah, I'll start with the question about the Swift boxes. Yes, there are a number of Swift boxes to be incorporated within the facade of the building. In terms of solar panels, yes, there will be a combination of roof-mounted solar panels on the school building itself. There's also an external...
But while we're spraying the skies, which has been acknowledged, will cut out the sunlight. So how do these solar panels work?
In terms of...
does it still give the same input-output?
Is it paragraph 3.132, which mentions about the contribution afforded by the heat pumps and the solar PV arrays. I mean, overall, the proposed school should be net zero carbon in operation.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a comment for when the applicant addresses it, the parking is without doubt an issue around every school. If we're building a new one, I'd like to think that you've put questions and thoughts into how we're going to overcome that. So if you could, but we know they will. You're right, it's Armageddon at every school. I think any county council sits there and every school gives them grief, or at least the parents do, even though it's the parents that tend to come in the cars. But, you know, that's that fulsome circle of abuse that we get when we get around the school playground. And I know one of the later schools, I think in Attleborough, has a drop-off pickup point within the, like a one-way system of the school. Seems to work quite well at the moment. But this one doesn't have that.
Maybe you need to rethink
So
one-way system within a car park and drop-offs to those that are coming rather than keep fighting the situation, because you're not going to get anywhere.
Is the school that's being replaced?
It's being replaced. I thought this... Oh.
What I'm trying to establish is that people who walk to that school will no longer walk to that school if it's a kilometre away. They'll come and by private car.
Good
I
point.
presume, or do I presume it's probably a question for later, will the county council be responsible for transporting pupils from one school to the other? I don't know, but there's a question.
Good point.
Private car. I mean, I live next door to a high school, 30 metres away, and if it's 3:20 and I'm going home, I stop in the lay-by and wait for half an hour before I can get into my own drive. So I know what the problem is, but I think if you've got something a kilometre away, then you're inviting people to come by another means of transport other than walking. So there is definitely a problem, or could be a problem.
These guys have never played Sim City or anything like that to know how to design things and think things through before they commit.
Yes, it's the size of the school playing field. Could you confirm it's going to be big enough to play competitive sports? Because that's quite important for children.
Can you put your microphone on, please?
Sorry, yeah, just going back to the pitch markings slide. Yes, I mean, that as shown here, does provide for a running track. There's a seven-a-side football pitch. There's a rounders area as well, and there's also a hard-surfaced sports area as well. So yes, it does provide for a number of outdoor activities.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions? No, in which case we'll go on to the applicant.
Guess what they class as outdoor activities, I suppose.
To start.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the committee for the opportunity to bring this to you this afternoon. This Bradwell scheme to relocate and expand the current Homefield Primary School to a new site really is in response to the almost 1,000 new homes in the existing development, but there are also other further homes expected currently in the planning process to increase the size of development being served by this school. The plan allows for the growth of additional pupils with an increase from reception upwards gradually, so there won't immediately be 420 pupils being served on this site. The land was transferred as set out by Andrew as part of a Section 106 agreement signed some time ago for the new development. So the roads and layout were based on the school in this location.
And what was given back to the 106?
210 pupils, and so it will double in size, but it will be a gradual increase in capacity.
And that would be interesting to see.
3 primary schools serving the wider Bradwell area, and this will ensure there are sufficient school places to meet the needs of children and families. The position of the school is opposite, as the report said, opposite a commercial centre, and we do know that actually that sometimes provides informal facilities that encourage parents to park and shop and then slightly reduce parking concerns. The current site is under a shared ownership with the Diocese of Norwich, and there hasn't been any discussion to date regarding that future use, but there won't be additional mainstream places required for the area, so it will have its future reconsidered in partnership with the Diocese of Norwich. There is a process for education land initially to be considered for additional education purposes, and if not, it's offered to other Norfolk County Council departments for reuse against our strategic aims. Whatever the outcome of that, if it's not used for education purposes, the Secretary of State approval will need to be sought for its disposal, and also to be offered on the open market would require the approval of Norfolk County Council Cabinet under a separate process. I would like to, if I can, just spend a bit of time reading out some words from the head teacher of the school, and which hopefully will address some of the issues that have been raised. The design of the new school offers a significant increase in the quality of learning facilities, enabling us to provide the very best standard of education for our children. I work closely with the other Bradwell schools, and we are all experiencing significant amount of pressure on places for families moving into the area. Our reception class is full at 30 with a waiting list, and this happens every year.
I think
It needs to increase its number of pupils enrolled.
if they're closing schools down and rebuild them elsewhere, I think the land that the schools remain on should remain public,
around parking
should be made back into public use, not sold off and used for something
road
else.
that the school is located on is a
Because
wide
it's how
road
we're
with a
losing
lay-by. An
our
agreement
land
can be reached with the shops
and our
adjacent to the
amenities.
site for use of parking during peak times. A parking agreement can be reached with our parents to avoid parking on both sides of the road, making it easily accessible for families and residents both. The parking facilities at the new site offers a considerable improvement to the current parking facilities for staff and visitors, therefore avoiding overspill onto the local roads. We already have a number of families that live on the Bluebell site or in the process of moving, and I do expect to have a number of families that are able to walk or bike to school. The new site also has a gate to the rear of the field, and this allows children 2 access points of entry and access, reducing traffic at the front of the building. Me and my governors at Homefield Primary believe very strongly our children deserve to be educated in a building that provides the highest quality learning facilities, and children deserve more than what we are currently experiencing in our building. Thank you very much. Did you want to come to me to answer the questions, or do you want to wait and do that separately?
If you're happy to answer the ones that have already been asked, I think that would be sensible.
Thanks very much. So there was a query around the length of the running track. That is 100 metres long, and all of the facilities meet the Sport England age-appropriate facilities for a primary school of this size. And as I said, there's two access points, so being able to achieve more than one pedestrian access point is usually something that we really strive to do, and we know that it disperses some of that pressure from a single pedestrian access point, and also kind of encourages people wherever they possibly can to not drive. But obviously recognising that some parents and working parents, that's more of a challenge. But I know we'll work with the school to do everything we can to encourage sustainable transport in this location.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask, you've provided an enormous amount of parking space inside the school, and what provisions have you made for cycling?
There are 60 cycle parking spaces. Just to say, though, the provision for 60. The provision for car parking is dictated to us by the Highways Authority Department.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? No, it's all very quiet. Okay, we have recommendations on page 116. Recommendation is for approval. Grant permission subject to conditions, etc., etc. Are you all, or can I show of hands in favour of the recommendation, please? Again, as far as I can see, that is unanimously carried. Thank you all very much. That comes to the end of the meeting. Our next meeting is on Friday, the 18th of July, when we'll have a new Nick. A new Nick, who will be called Richard, or occasionally will be called Nick. Thank you all very much for your attendance this afternoon, and safe journeys home.
All right. And that was that. Meanwhile, I have been getting on with this. And this is where I am up to. With last night's AGM, this is the paperwork. It was part of the agenda and the answers to it. So I've put it into one. And considering we're not part of council and a part of their policy and everything else, this is the way I think I'm going to do the agenda with things that are put on and the discussions being made. There's also the recording made last night. There's 2 you'll find out. There's one that is actually just running the meeting, and the second one is similar to this, where the live chat is open for any of the other businesses to join in with chat, for anyone to join in with chat, and to have a voice. And if you've got any questions, to ask away. But I think this is as good as it's going to get. I don't think I've missed anything off. There's a lot of gumph there because a lot was talked about that. And it was also discussed about the town Right, does that make sense? Town Council Finance meeting to be held on the 4th of November and start the grant. So to start the grant application form for the Christmas market, which will be running alongside the Christmas Day Big Switch On in North Walsham. That is when we find out if we're going to be granted £750, wasn't it? And also for lights as well, actually. Grant application form for the Christmas market. Shop lights. And the application form for the shop lights, entertainment, and the Christmas market, which will be running along the Christmas Day Big Switch On in North Walsham. Grant for £750. Then date for the next meeting. We didn't arrange that at all. So I'm going to have to do that on the WhatsApp group, and the minutes to be signed off at the next meeting, which will be just here. By, if I just put by, like so, date, so we know that that's what needs to be put in there. Right. The meeting finished at hang on a sec. Meeting finished at I've got 7:52 written here. Right, and that's that. That is the paperwork for last night's meeting done and dusted. So I can save that and get that printed off along with the new amended constitution that can be signed. I need to email Councillor Lucy Shires for something that I couldn't remember last night, and I certainly still can't remember now. It was a word she used and I can't remember. See, sometimes recording things helps my memory. Right, so that bit is done. All I need to do now is to sort out what Liz has sent me about. I'll tell you what I'm going to do before I go. We are going to pop over to this screen. Man and woman found dead at home as police launch investigation. Okay, right. We are going to go for this page. Now, the town councillor, Wendy, said that on this page I can find the application form. It says forms there. For grants. Right, grant application form needs to be up in this bit, guys. It really does. Okay. I will just bring you over because it opened up in a new page. Have I done that right? No, I still haven't done that right. Sorry. Okay, here we are. Are you guys with me? Right, so this is the application form. Name of organisation, event. I'm guessing, can I write? I'm going to have to do this by hand, aren't I? Because this is not a... this is not a... check made payable to... right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print this off and write it, is what I'm going to do. And last but not least, so it's print off the Constitution, print off the minutes, the agenda and the minutes, print off the application form. I think that was it. I think that was it. I don't think there's anything in... no idea what that... oh, right. Okay. That is to do with my online learning through the County Council, Norfolk Adult Education. I have gone into that just to double check that I can understand everything around, because you've got all this data and all this stuff, and it's like, right, I need to learn. So learn I shall. Now, we have nothing else in the email section. So yeah, we're done. We are done. I'm now going to get these things printed off, sort out my mother's lunch, and go for a little walk in town and get this done and sorted. I do need to email a copy of the Constitution to the town clerk. I think we're done. Or I could just print her off a copy and drop it in. We shall see. But yes, we are done. This is where we're up to. It's Friday today, so hopefully the weekend will be relatively quiet from me. I will try and finish the edit of last week's trackside, the beginnings of it all, leading up to what was going on from an audit's point of view when it comes to the council, and making sure that everything was in place. From what was done on the events, and there was a few extras bunged in as well, so that'll be an interesting one. I'm probably going on about legal spots quite a lot when it comes to street art and graffiti, I'm noticing. So I'll probably catch up with that over the weekend, but I will be back Monday. I'm not sure what the county and district meetings are going to be like next week, but if they go live, I shall be here again doing this. If you'd like to join me, it'd be great to have that chat, because I'd like to get people talking about what is being discussed. Because big changes are happening and we need to know about it. So anyway, that's me for now. Catch you later.